Hi everyone, Coralfish here, and I wanted to share with you some footage from the California NORML conference I attended earlier this year in San Francisco, California. I hope you enjoy.
We're going to start off and talk a little bit about how we got here. You know, it's really pretty incredible when you think about it. About 100 years ago, you could still go into any pharmacy and buy cannabis here in California or anywhere else in the United States. And in fact, a little bit more than 100 years ago at least, you could buy opium, morphine, cocaine. In my grandparents' generation, when they were, college age and a little older, all of these drugs were freely available over the counter without a prescription, and frankly, there wasn't much of a drug problem. One thing that nobody had heard of at the time was marijuana. That was maybe in a tiny minority of Mexicans knew about it, but marijuana was not in the public mind in 1913. However, next slide, it got the attention of a very important group of people, individuals here in California. The California State Board of Pharmacy basically pioneered the war on drugs here in California before the federal law could get passed. Because the states had more constitutional freedom to do so, and California had been a pioneer in this because we'd started going after opium dens here in San Francisco as early as 1875, which is the first anti-narcotics law in the U.S. The Board of Pharmacy engineered a state law making it illegal basically to sell opium, morphine, or cocaine in pharmacies in 1907. And they proceeded to launch a progressive campaign against opium dens and dope dealing pharmacists and so forth. It was led by a singular figure named Henry James Finger. He's really the father of cannabis prohibition in California. He was a pharmacist from Santa Barbara, and his efforts in pioneering the war on drugs here got favorable attention from President Taft, and he was appointed, along with our good friend Hamilton Wright, to the Hague Anti-Opium Conference in 1910. And it is then that we first hear on the next slide about a possible cannabis problem here in California. This comes from a private letter in the National Archives that Henry Finger wrote to Hamilton Wright before the conference. And he says, within the last year in California, we've been getting a large influx of Hindus, and they have in turn started fighting demand for cannabis indica. And well, the fear is that it will not be confined to Hindus alone, but they are initiating our whites into this habit. Now, a word about the Hindus. There, as you can see, that's a cartoon from the San Francisco Examiner. The Hindus were very unpopular. They were a very small minority. They weren't really Hindus, actually. They were Sikhs. But nowhere have I been able to find in any of the newspapers or literature about the Sikhs or Hindus in California at this time is there any mention at all about cannabis. The only person who ever brought it up was Henry Finger in this private letter to Hamilton Wright. However, Hamilton Wright, there he is, took interest in this because he had similar ideas. He said, well, it occurred to me that if, in fact, we do succeed in stamping out opium and morphine and cocaine, the beans might turn to Indian hemp. Therefore, it's a good idea to pass a law to prevent this. And he urged Finger to see to it that California passed such a law.
I love trying to keep history together. No person in the state of California 18 years of older shall be punished criminally or be denied any right or privilege by reason of a person's planting, cultivating, harvesting, drying, processing, otherwise preparing, transporting, or possessing marijuana for personal use or by reason of the use. This provision shall in no way be construed to repeal existing legislation or limit the enactment of future legislation prohibiting persons under the influence of marijuana from engaging in conduct that endangers others. That was the full text of Proposition 19, otherwise known as the California Marijuana Initiative in 1972, which would have decriminalized marijuana. It was the first time marijuana was ever on a ballot, or ever voted on anywhere in the world. 3 field polls showed the highest 33% support for the Nixon-McGovern election. It received 33.5% of the vote in favor statewide. It received 51% in San Francisco and 71% in Berkeley. It was considered a victory because it showed that 1/3 of the state was in favor of complete decriminalization, and it revealed a political constituency that was previously unnoticed. It was still a felony in 1972, even for possession of any amount. CMI did not make felons out of people under 21 for smoking. We considered 18 or over to be adults, and we're not going to ostracize one of the main parts of our constituency. The next initiative that had any chance was in 1980. It did not get enough signatures. The little old lady would not sign and said everybody should go to jail. The hippie said, "It's already legal, man." That year, Nancy Reagan began Just Say No. It would be many years before the electorate would be willing to open their minds to the idea of legalization. Thank you, Leo Paoli, for your vision of the future. I hope that the next initiative is as clear and easy to understand as CMI was. And the next initiative should be for all those 18 or older, not 21. Don't make felons out of college students. Thank you.
There was a dry period in marijuana reform here in California and everywhere else. It turned downright nasty and reactionary in the Reagan years, in the 1980s, and the marijuana movement started to dry up. Fortunately, some grassroots activists started to take interest in this. And our next panelist, Debby Goldsberry, founder of the Cannabis Action Network, will talk about some of the things that went on in those years to revive the cannabis movement.
I'm very excited to be here and happy to tell the story of the hemp tour. Who knows about hemp tour? Who participated in hemp tour back in the day? Yeah, smattering crowd, so fun. Well, my background, I've been involved for 25 years. I got involved back in college, my college campus, and since then been involved in a lot of great projects. Cannabis Action Network, I was founder of Berkeley Patients Group, co-founded Americans for Safe Access, was a board member at MPP for a while, worked with Cal NORML as a board member right now. A famous bustee who was busted with Ed Rosenthal. They tried to force us all to testify against Ed, and if we followed that case, of course, we said, no way. 15 of us went and stood up to the feds and said we weren't going to testify against Ed. They put us all on trial. Judge Breyer was so cool. In the end, he said, our sentence was this, like, if you'll testify against Ed, if I send you to jail, I'll send you to jail, but if you won't, you can all go home. So we just went home. It was amazing. One time over the years, we in Berkeley decided to enforce the Berkeley law that they passed in 1979, saying pot was legal, but nobody had ever enforced that law, so we decided to go ahead and make pot legal ourselves, and we opened a Dutch-style coffee shop. Well, we got busted there too, but of course it was the law, and the citizens were very supportive, and at the end of that, charges were thrown out, and we sued the police department. We won a lawsuit against the city for busting us for enforcing the laws ourselves. So that was also fun. Right now, I'm writing with this blog site that's SFGate, Smell the Truth, and doing a lot of work with High Times, and writing a book called The Big Pot Party Book, No More Boring Parties. So hopefully you'll see that one day. The idea being, of course, to empower all of us through the Big Pot Party Book to learn how to throw events to make money for the cause, so that we can make money for our own incomes and become our own impresarios, but also that we can raise funds, we can legalize cannabis, because certainly money is what we need to legalize cannabis right now. So let's all go out and make money and donate it to the cause. Like Dale said, I got involved in this stuff in the 80s. It was the height of the drug war. It was such a mess, I was using cannabis and it was really, I loved it. I was in college. But the drug war had gotten so bad that based on the way you look, the law actually said the police could stop you, they could search you, and they could find your cannabis and take you to jail. So pot smokers were being busted all the time. It was a big mess, and we had gone massively underground. I mean, not only was it so hard to find good cannabis, it took me years to even see indica, and I just thought it must be from the moon. It was so different than this crappy herb I was smoking back in the Midwest, but I had to come to the West Coast to see that stuff. At the height of the drug war, on my college campus, they, in the 60s, they started smoking Hash Wednesday. It had been going 20 years by the time I got there. But at Hash Wednesday, in 1988, Ronald Reagan was president and decided no more smoke-ins on college campuses. So he put the pressure on the college campuses. So our beautiful smoke-in that the year before had a 30-foot bong and a lifeguard chair, I don't know, responsible use. Anyway, it was fun. The next year, the cops were there, and they just beat up the cannabis users, literally with clubs, and they took people off to jail. And it was such, for me, it was too much of a juxtaposition. You can't go from, beautiful, loving, kind cannabis to being beat down with the cops the next year without really getting involved. Well, my college campus happened to be one of those magical places. Keith Straub, who founded NORML, went to college there. Steve Hager, who was the editor of High Times, went to college there. I mean, he lived there, he was born there, as was Chef Ra. Steve D'Angelo's longtime partner, Ruby Pearl, was born there. It was just one of these places that was ripe for cannabis reform to happen. And we had a tenacious student group that had been going there in NORML chapter for, who knows, 20 years maybe by that point. So we got involved, and the university said, we're going to crush you guys out. And we said, no way are you crushing us out. With cops and billy clubs, we're fighting back. So we said next time, we had a year, we got in touch with everyone. I remember calling Ed Rosenthal from a payphone in like the science building or something on campus, being so excited that I could reach out to my heroes who were going to help me fight back the police in Illinois. Well, instead of just doing our campus, we knew there was powers in numbers. We decided to contact students in each college campus in Illinois. And we thought that if we could build power in numbers, we could really make a statement to our college campus. So the next time it was time for Hash Wednesday, the third Wednesday in April, which must have fallen on 420 a few times over the years, I don't know, but we held rallies in our campus and in 5 campuses in Illinois. We went on tour, the hemp tour, the first ever hemp tour. And to that very first tour, we had the director of NORML, John Getman at the time. We had High Times there, we had the Yippies, Ben Maisel out in full force, and Steve D'Angelo came from Harborside Health Center. This is 1989. It was such a big success that we decided, well, we're going to keep on going. The 5 college campuses, then we had 5 NORML chapters, we had educated students in Illinois, but we were blowing the lid off things. We were bringing around little swaths of hemp, this big, like a little thing of seeds. Look, it's a seed, and you can make fiber. There weren't any hemp products at all at this point. Somewhere along the way, Willie Nelson made the first hemp shirt, and then we could take a shirt. Look, you can make a shirt out of it, But we had to tell people, here's the fiber, here's the stem, and you can see it breaks down. We had to teach our own people about this. Well, the next time we did an advanced tour, we decided to go to do a much bigger tour the next fall. So in fall of 1989, we were in 17 states. And so by this time, you can imagine we had organizers in 17 states. We had college chapters going all over those states. And we came to town by now with Jack Herrera, an emperor who wears no clothes, and his teaching t-shirt. Anybody remember that? You didn't have us all dressed up in these things. You just point to us and, go, hemp for food, fuel, fiber, medicine. I can still hear it in my head. And we had Elvie Musica. Raise your hand, Elvie. Elvie Musica. So we went from people in the closet hiding out to people in 17 states, enthusiastic. Jumping off the roof with excitement. We had Elvie, we had Jack Herrera. How are you not going to say that cannabis is medicine and cannabis is hemp and cannabis is healthful? We just kept spreading and spreading and getting bigger and bigger. Before you know it, we would do a fall tour, a spring tour. We'd do 2 tours each fall, 2 tours each spring. We did thousands of events. And out of those events, we said, look, this is a grassroots movement. We might never be back. You need to build your own self. How are you going to make money for your own group? What's your own philosophy going to be? What needs to be done in your hometown to bust the lid off of prohibition? And what are you going to do about it? So we would come to town. We would help people organize their events in advance, form an organization, create an event that brought people together. get media, LB on the front page of the newspaper, show people that hemp was a product that was so important, and we'd leave behind an organization. And now you know there's organizations all across the US. And the project was really exciting because we did inspire the creation of a lot of the groups that are really the foremost groups in the movement right now, like MPP, SSTP. Richard Lee of Oaksterdam was our Phoenix organizer, or Houston, Texas, where he had his legal marijuana store and organized a hemp tour there. You know, Americans for Safe Access and Berkeley Patients Group came out of that project too, so it was really amazing. Let's see, I think I'm on the Pioneer panel because we used to travel around in these VW vans. They're shaped like those old wagons, I guess. I remember my trip out to California. It was so dang cold. It was the winter. Those things don't have heat, you know? And we just kept putting layers of newspaper down. When the floor would freeze, we just put another layer of newspaper on the ice, you know? It insulated itself like an igloo, I guess, but it was kind of like a Pioneer. Some of the stories, there's some, you know, it was fun to be on the road, let's make no mistake about it. It was the days of the Grateful Dead tour, people were on the road. We got a lot of great people on hemp tour going around with this enthusiasm and inspiring people. Just a couple of funny stories. Well, you know, the one time where our organizer said, come down, it's on the street, it's the red car, you know, pull right into the driveway and come in. So the tour did, knocked on the door, went in, moved the couch, set up their bedrolls, and then people were like, who are you people? You know? It was a college town, I guess they were okay. There's two red cars on the block. Oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong house. So that happened. We ran out of gas one time at a place called Cheapo's gas station in South Carolina. Just try and spare change for gas at Cheapo's if possible. I think we made 36 cents, and then Ben Maisel, the yippie organizer from Wisconsin, took pity on us and wired us $200, so we made it out of South Carolina. But you know, it was also a lot of harassment, and we learned every time that we were confronted by the police or confronted by prohibition that we had to know our constitutional rights and we had to stand up against them. No, I don't consent to that search. You know, no, accused remain silent and I want to see my lawyer. And you know, one of the sad things I saw happen is we were at a campus in North Carolina, and the dean of students couldn't believe that we had gotten a permit and we were out there. He was furious. So he came up to the student organizer and said, look, I'm the dean of students and I know you have a permit and everything, but I'm the dean of students. What are you, a sophomore? No, I'm going to be here for 2 years watching your every move. Either you give up your permit voluntarily or just remember that I'm the dean of students. And he caved and he gave up his permit and we were kicked off the campus. But that's the kind of pressure that was going down on the cannabis users during the height of Prohibition. So really excited to be here. Jack Herrera, of course, was the fuel for our fire. He was unstoppable in his mission, and the power behind his mission was one I think that all of us have been on for all these years. So I hope that we all remember that hemp is food, fuel, fiber, medicine, and we're all working together to accomplish an end to prohibition. And I think it's very exciting. I want to say one last thing. I'm doing a couple things now. I have a new medical cannabis collective I'm working with, community care centers, so hopefully you'll hear more about that soon. I'm running a booth right over here for California NORML, where there's a whole bunch of collectible posters, and you can take home some history from the 60s, all the best rock poster artists, and all the money is going to NORML. But the one thing I think that I want to say is last night I was talking to Dan Rush over at this, from the UFCW, over at the Spark thing. And we're here in Colorado and we're in the middle of a fight to end prohibition. Some places have it easier, but we're activists and we're fighters. And it really is the fight on the edge of this thing that's making the difference. So I'm thrilled to be here in California, to be involved in this advocacy, to be an activist, to be fighting for reform. And I'm happy to be here with all you guys. So thank you very much.
These are some of the posters that Debby Goldsberry had just mentioned, and I also wanted to show you the room that was adjoining the conference center, which featured some items and companies that are supportive of California NORML, including Oaksterdam, there were celebration pipes, there was Bang chocolate, and lots of weedy goodies.
So now you're a lawyer. I'm glad I waited.
set of speakers would be Mother Daisy Bram and her lawyer, and I found what they had to say incredibly moving and incredibly powerful.
The reason Daisy's sitting next to me is because she's been my client for over a year now. I took her case pro bono a little over a year ago, defended her against some charges in Butte County. There were child endangerment charges, child abuse and endangerment charges, and then cultivation, etc. We defeated the child abuse charges the first time, then they refiled almost a year ago. We're still involved in preliminary hearing on that. And then Daisy had a little incident just about a few days ago. Her children were taken again, this time in Tehama County where she had moved to. They tried to put her in jail in Butte County because they said she violated the terms of her release. We had a hearing on that Wednesday. We beat that, so they didn't get to put her in jail that time. There are some potential criminal charges pending in Tehama County. And then Tuesday, she's got a child dependency court matter where they're again going to try to sever, or at least temporarily sever parental rights. And so I feel like I forget the name of it, but the Greek, who was the Greek character who kept pushing that rock? Sisyphus. He pushes the rock up the hill and then it rolls back down and he pushes it back up. And the other reason I think that Daisy should be sitting next to me is because, quite frankly, when it came to the child dependency matter that she had in Butte County, this is over a year ago, her home was raided based on a very kind of shaky search warrant that came as a result of what they called a compliance check. They came to her house, she and her boyfriend, were confronted by sheriffs. They unchained her gate, no search warrant, went up to her house, confronted the boyfriend, basically said, "You're going to show us around or else." So he showed them around. They say, "Everything's fine, hey, no problem, you got some plans, you got, it's all medical, have good luck." She had at this point an infant who had just been born 3 weeks before. 6 days before at the time of the, Daisy always corrects me, so don't worry about it. At the first moment, the baby had just been born. They say, "Good luck with the baby." Then, 3 weeks later, they show up with a search warrant. And they raid the place, they take her children, they arrest all of them. And probably many of you have heard the audio of her children being taken from her. It is just primarily gut-wrenching, the idea of a child being taken from its mother for basically nothing.
It's the same baby in my arms this time.
Same, yeah. And so the children were taken. Daisy got in touch with me. How she found me in the world, I don't know exactly, but we've never quite figured this out. But my lovely and talented legal assistant, who's not here today, Jen Reeder, and I went and met with her when we were in Orville and something else, and it took about 5 seconds to decide we're doing this case pro bono. I don't care what anybody says. We're doing this case. We're doing this case. So anyway, we fought the child engagement / abuse charges in a prelim. This is over a year ago, and we won. And we got some other stuff dismissed. And then, by the way, the primary issues revolved around whether dry marijuana or grown cut marijuana, not yet heated, not yet decarboxylated, was dangerous to a child. And this is, the evidence was pretty overwhelming that the answer is no. But they didn't want to give that up, so they tried a bunch of other things. They tried some lab tests that didn't go anywhere, so we won. Now, by the way, in the relitigated preliminary hearing on the refiling of the charges, the prosecutor brought in a physician who testified to 10 cases in her clinical practice where she alleged that children had ingested raw marijuana and become violently ill, had to be hospitalized. Yeah, well, so luckily, by the way, Ed Rosenthal was helping us, and he said, yeah. And he said, make sure she brings in all of the medical reports. So we got the judge to order from these prior 10 cases. And magically, they never did. Her answer to the doctor's answer to the court order was, I can't remember the names of the patients, and the hospital won't release them anyway. And it was like, okay. So well, because obviously, even if you can't remember the names of the patients, you can search medical records, you can get the information. And the hospital will release it because the court ordered it to be released. This is done on a routine basis in cases involving medical records. So that kind of fizzled. Now they're trying some other things. Where Daisy, I think, actually, I'll be straight up honest, where I think Daisy belongs on a panel with lawyers is because Daisy Bram took on the Child Protective Service in Butte County basically on her own. Basically, she was told in some substance, her children had been taken. They were in child protective custody for roughly about 3 months at this point. They told her, okay, you know, and people, by the way, some people kind of in the movement were kind of behind the scenes suggesting, look, give up the boyfriend, give up the cannabis, do what they tell you, and then maybe in 6 months you'll get your children back. And her answer to that was, I'll try to figure out how to say that Yiddish. Okay, it was basically no. And eventually, it was only after the prelim, when the child charges went away, it was about a month, 3 weeks. She gives me a call, I got my kids back. I was so She got the children back, and she was allowed to use medical cannabis if she wished. And then eventually they closed that case. So basically, now in Tehama, Daisy's facing the same set of issues with the Child Protective Court. But then I can say, you know, I think the other lawyers here can probably endorse 99% of attorneys, good attorneys, people that do this, don't win that situation in that way. It's nearly, Child Protective Court is like Jabberwocky world. And Daisy took them on quietly, calmly, intelligently, with the kind of resolution that it takes to know that you're right, know that you're not going to be told you're wrong just because they say you're wrong. And she stood her ground, and she won. You're here. But now, like I said, like Sisyphus, we got to push the rock back up the hill. With that, I believe Daisy wants to say a few words, and then we'll let the rest of the August panel speak.
First, I just want to thank everyone. I've had a number of people come up to me and give me really good hugs. I just want to give you a few quick facts. The individual, Eric Clay, who was initially worked in the Tehama County District Attorney's Office as an investigator, quit that job and moved down to Butte County and worked there for 4 months, during which time, that was when he raided my home. He is actively testifying against me in the 2 open cases I have in Butte County. He now is re-employed with Tehama County District Attorney's Office and raided my house in a different county, under a different badge, under a different jurisdiction. Came through the door, hey Daisy, how you doing? I'm here to do an OR conditions check from a different county. And I'm going to be filing child abuse charges against you again. You can say that, but that's what happened.
What's his his address?
His name is Eric L. Clay. Anyway, my point is, you can't tell me it's not a witch hunt. You can't tell me that I haven't embarrassed somebody. So I just want to make sure that you all understand that when you stand up for something, that they'll come for you and they'll wait. They'll quietly wait. And they'll come for you because that's what they can do. But I'm not going to sit down again this time. But I need a lot of help because now I'm fighting cases in 2 different counties and they got my kids again and I don't want to give them back this time because I just won't stop growing pot. That's their argument. They gave her kids back. It was a year later and look, the cannabis is around and she just won't give it up. She's obviously a drug addict and a bad mother. So I need you guys to be on this. I need you to tell everybody you know. I need you to think about it and figure out where you can get involved. Because my kids are in foster care right now. My kids are in foster care right now, and when I get arraigned in Tehama County, they're going to want to put me in jail. Jamie's up there now with $1 million bail. They can have him in with the child molesters and the worst of the worst. He's in protective custody. So I really, really need you guys not to get all excited. I get a lot of people that get really, really excited about my story and they want to do something and I never hear another word. So put your money where your mouth is and keep talking about it and figure out how you can help me because my kids need your guys' help and I need your guys' help. Because we're going to do something. We need to get legal. If we were legal, my kids wouldn't be in foster care right now. My children would not be in foster care if we had accomplished something. We are the elders of the village. My children need us to do right by them. We need to do well to our children. Thor, Zeus, and Invictus need you guys. They need you badly. Invictus is only 3 months old. He's on formula. They got him on formula now. I have to carry around breast pump, trying to keep my milk supply up because I'm not with my newborn. Zeus, the one that was 28 days old when I took him the first time, he just happened to have crawled in my arms when they ripped him out again this time. So twice this kid has been ripped out of his mother's arms. Thor is so pissed when I saw him for a supervised hour on Thursday, he threw chairs at me.
Stay strong.
Stay strong.
Thanks, Stacey. I wish we had more time. I'm sure people will seek you out during the conference. I want to say one way to support Daisy is to join and participate in the NORML Women's Alliance, who has championed the cause. I have always said that this issue is going to galvanize women, and it really has. It's very easy to join. You can go to normal.org/women. If you go to canormal.org/women, you can join for $15 and be a member of both. And they have Facebook pages and lots of ways to get involved. Daisy's case was really publicized over Facebook, over that video that Michael mentioned, and it's really making headway, and we really appreciate you coming, Daisy. Thanks.
I'm supposed to be speaking here for what, 6 minutes, 7 minutes? That's right. Okay, I'm supposed to be saying something about local cultivation regulations. I had this whole kind of speech outlined about, economics, the future, the past, prohibition effects. And there are 538 local governments in California. There are 480 incorporated cities. There are 58 counties, right? We have chaos all over the map, medical cannabis for cultivation, for what have you. We have one shining example, Mendocino County. I want to hear it. Mendocino County did the right thing, the moral thing, the sensible thing, regulated medical cannabis, created a system for 99 plant grows, sunshine, outdoor grows, all right?
Yeah.
And we have the President John of the Board of Supervisors here, who will be on the next panel. Mendocino County's program was the stellar example, really the only example. They did it right. It was run by the sheriffs. I don't think it's a secret to anybody that I had clients in that program, and a lot of very, very fine, sunlight grown, environmentally responsible, tracked, water responsible, regulated, inspected cannabis came out of those gardens. That was intolerable to the federal government, especially, when the U.S. attorneys went crazy, whatever their problem was. Maybe it had to do with the election. I don't know, I don't care. The U.S. attorney threatened the Board of Supervisors with imprisonment, basically, is what it comes down to, is my understanding, and they decided to back down on that program. So far, so good. Then, the U.S. Attorney's Office and this is where they blew it, people, overreached. They came at Mendocino County and said, now we want all the paper. We want to know who was in the program. We want to know where they were. We want to know how much money you got from them. We want it all. Every last scrap of paper in the county archive related to the 931 program. What did Mendocino County do? Did they buckle to the U.S. Attorney? Hell no. They stood up. They stood up. The problem with dealing with this now is that Mendocino County is in litigation with the federal government. Mendocino County has stood up and said the sovereignty of the state of California, to which Mendocino County as a political subdivision is heir, is on the line. And we will not cave to your subpoena. We've resisted that subpoena in federal court. They hired a brilliant lawyer, Bill Osterhaus. Bill, you here today? Wrote a great brief. What do we know about Mendocino County? The home of so many of our best activists and best both individuals and groups who supported the regulations and who also came out and filed an amicus brief supporting the county with Adam Wolf, another brilliant young lawyer. Where are we now? The county, because they're in litigation, all of their decisions are being made in closed session. Something very strange just happened, right? These brilliant briefs get filed. You know, who knows? Maybe we win, maybe we lose. It was supposed to be up for a hearing, I think, next week. The county and the federal government went to the federal judge and said, we need more time, we want to delay the hearing. We need more time for what? Right? This is what lawyers do. They are talking. The only reason lawyers talk in advance of a hearing is because they are talking about cutting a deal. Right? So, that hearing has been moved back to February 19th. There is a Board of Supervisors meeting in Mendocino County at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, February 12th. I want you to take out your cell phones and get your calendars out. I want you to put that in your calendar right now. 9 a.m., Mendocino County Board of Supervisors, Tuesday, February 12th. Write it down, put it in your calendar. Because we need to be there. Not just Mendocino County. Mendocino, Sonoma, Lake, Trinity, Humboldt, wherever you are from, come to Mendocino County to the Board of Supervisors at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, February 12th, and praise them for unanimously, apparently we heard that it was a unanimous vote in closed session, for unanimously resisting that subpoena, for doing the right thing, for standing up to the federal government's immoral and factually incorrect position on medical cannabis, which causes unnecessary suffering, as we see, to hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of people every day, and urge them to stay the course and not cut a deal. It is not acceptable for the county to give up, you know, any detailed information on patients, or where they were growing, or their medical records, or any of that. It is not acceptable.
It's always great to be here. I was actually just thinking that the first NORML conference I spoke at was 7 years ago in San Francisco. And a lot has changed since then, but a lot has also stayed the same. So what I'm going to talk about briefly today is actually not the science. I'm actually going to take a little leap to the other side of science and take a step back for a minute. Because I think, you know, John made a really good point earlier, which is that we're all amped up. I mean, we're super excited. I mean, this is like a precedent-setting experience we've just had with legalization in 2 states. And there's this idea that we just need to charge forward as fast as we can, like write that initiative yesterday and start gathering signatures 2 days ago. And we need to take a breath. Because we're California and we are super complicated. And so what I want to present today are really just what I think are going to be 3 key components to moving forward towards a tax and regulate successful initiative in 2016 in California. So the first component, of which I just alluded to, is that we need to slow down and take our time. We need to see what the feds are going to do in Washington and Colorado. You know, Tamar had her magic 8 ball this morning. We need to replace that with an actual response, because that's really going to come into play on how we strategize here in California. If we can avoid the pitfalls that Washington and Colorado may have to experience by waiting to see what the feds do, I think it's worth it. Number two, which I don't have to tell most of you folks, California is hella unique, okay? We are different than every other state in the United States for many reasons. A few days ago, and I think I'm correctly attributing this to Paul Armentano, he made the comment that legalizing marijuana in California is like trying to legalize marijuana on the entire eastern coast, from Maine down to South Carolina. Meaning that you have such different ideas about what legalization means and what people want to see from an initiative in Northern California versus the middle of California versus Southern California, that we have to spend a lot of time gathering information and finding out what these groups want to see out of an initiative. So number one, take our time. Number two, California is unique. And number three, as Dan Rush alluded to earlier, unity is essential. Infighting turns off the mainstream. I mean, let's face it, we're the marijuana folks. We're already viewed as a little kooky. And if we can't agree with each other, we really scare off the mainstream coalitions of individuals that would be willing to lend their support.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It was very hard to narrow down the 5 hours of footage from the California NORML conference. As always, stay high, you guys.